sign of what happened, but when she looked at her skin, she found nothing. Even the old scars she'd collected from her various battles were gone. The only real loss was her hair, which had already begun to grow again. She liked it shorter, though. It gave her a somewhat boyish look, or it would if it didn't match the rings under her eyes. Sleep would come, the high priest told her. He had merely neglected to mention when. After a long moment, during which she stared at nothing, she registered something happening outside her room. With a grimace, she pushed from the floor and drew her blanket tighter around her shoulders as she moved toward the door. The shouts weren't that uncommon among the denizens of the temple. She had been around for long enough to know that their philosophical arguments often tended to get heated before too long. And yet, when the sound of a hard fist impacting flesh echoed through the hallways, she decided she needed to involve herself. Not because she expected any of them to be hurt, but in the end, it was her job to put a stop to fights when she could. Most of the academics in the temple listened to her when she told them to calm themselves. It truly was odd how they were the ones who got worked up the easiest. Cassandra pushed the door open, stepped into the hallway, and followed the sound of the vociferous debate. It seemed to be punctuated by more sounds of violence, which confused her somewhat. This was not how most arguments went, of course. Perhaps they were getting worked up over whether the gods were siblings or entirely unrelated. It was one of the most sensitive subjects, as it involved the question of whether or not there was a father and a mother, as was implied if they were brothers and sisters. "You cannot walk into the temple like this," the high priest yelled. "It's simply not done." That meant there was someone new in the temple. "I can wander in whatever the gods-bedamned hells I want. Haven't you heard? I'm the Barbarian of Theros." It couldn't be. She narrowed her eyes and turned the corner. "Barbarian of Theros or not, to invade the temple in the middle of the night—" "If I were invading, there would be considerably more trouble involved, and many more of your guards would be dead by this point." She reached the scene of the altercation and paused to study it. Two of the guards scrambled to their feet, located their weapons, and rushed to where a tall, powerfully built human held the high priest by the collar with one hand. He dragged the man behind him while he held one of the guards by the jaw with the other. A tall barbarian, no less, with bright red hair and scars across his exposed skin. There was no possible way to mistake Skharr DeathEater at this point, and she simply waited to watch events unfold. "Your violence disputes that." The high priest managed to regain his footing using Skhar's arm as support. The barbarian laughed and tossed the guard into a nearby pillar, although with considerably less force than what he generally brought to combat. The other two defenders rushed closer and seemed determined to use their weapons with deadly intent. He caught one with a swift kick to the knees before he could close the distance. The man tripped and fell heavily as the other lunged forward with his spear. It looked like a sound thrust, but to the man's astonishment, it missed. His large opponent simply swayed to the side to avoid it, kicked the spear out of his hands, and grasped him by the neck to lift his feet off the floor. If there was ever a time to get involved, it was now, or Skharr would eventually kill the men. "Skharr," she called and clutched her blanket lest she lose it. "What in the 9 hells are you doing here?" All the men looked to where the paladin stood, although the warrior appeared to be the only one who was happy to see her. His warm brown eyes lit up, and a broad grin spread across his features as he dropped both the guard and high priest like a child who had found a nicer toy to play with and decided to abandon those he already had. "Cassandra, it's good to see you again," he responded as he approached her. "They said you weren't available, but I had a feeling that if I made enough noise, you would find me eventually." "That is your preferred tactical approach, yes." She smiled, took his proffered hand to shake it firmly, and tried not to wince when he almost crushed her hand in his grasp. "Is that why you are assaulting the high priest and the temple guards?" "In fairness, they attacked me first." Skharr growled his annoyance as he glanced at the group that regained their equilibrium and helped each other to stand slowly.